Now, last week, President Biden met with the leaders of multiple companies to discuss threats to cybersecurity. Now, to discuss the sector further, I'd like to welcome in Michelle Schneider, Director, Trader Education and Research at MarketGauge.com. Michelle, welcome to Market Overtime. Good to have you here. So what were the big takeaways from this White House meeting, Michelle?
Well, just to put a little bit of backdrop on it, as we know, we've had major headlines about cybersecurity attacks throughout a long time now, but particularly this year with the Colonial Pipeline was the biggest one, got the most headlines, and then you had JBS Food. And healthcare, interestingly enough, is being targeted almost daily. I was reading that Johnson & Johnson has about 15.5 billion cybersecurity incidences on any given day. So what's happening is these hackers are really exploiting the weakness in the data, and then of course we know that they ask for millions of dollars in ransom. So yes, as you just mentioned, Biden met with Google, Apple, Microsoft, IBM, and Amazon to discuss how he can get money, because he said the private sector is needed because it's not really just able for the government, not tactically and also financially, to really foot the bill to be able to raise the bar and fight this cybersecurity. So that's kind of where we're at. We all knew coming into the fact that when you have technology, of course, the flip side is that it can be hacked, and that's what we're seeing. So in terms of the stocks themselves, we've seen some high flyers, and then we've seen others that could emerge as this particular problem goes forward.
Well, Michelle, it does seem like we're hearing more and more headlines about cybersecurity and breaches and things like that. Why do you think it's gaining as much attention as it is?
Well, let's just look at the healthcare. So you have the pharmaceuticals, hospitals, public companies, organizations. All of these are basically low-hanging fruit for these hackers, and they can get good data when they hack, and they can also obviously just create havoc enough to be able to ask for this money. So a lot of it is like the kidnapping of the 21st century, really. So they're holding hostage these major companies that have all this sensitive material, and it can be done. That's the problem, obviously, with the internet. And even though there is a lot of cybersecurity technology out there, these hackers are clever, and they get loopholes and they get workarounds. So it could be a battle that goes on for a while. We know China as a country is dealing with this too. This is not just something we're experiencing in the United States.
Got it. Well, let's talk for our viewers a little bit about the sector of cybersecurity and how it's been performing. I know that we've just gone through a lot of earnings releases, even Okta today, but boy, I remember not too long ago, Palo Alto Networks came out with earnings. What a tremendous move up. What are you seeing in the way this overall sector is behaving?
Well, if you look at some of the big stocks like CyberArk, they're near new all-time highs. Palo Alto, as you just mentioned, Scott, near all-time highs. So I went and did a little bit of research in some of the other stocks that may have upside potential, because it's really hard, I think, to buy something at all-time highs. I mean, certainly some people are momentum traders and find that if something is high, it could go much higher, and clearly that's true. But as we know as traders, the risk then becomes the question. How much are you willing to risk? And when you're in uncharted territory, how far can it go? So with that said, I looked like, for example, at Cloudflare Net. Now that's also made a really big move up, and actually I think it cleared 125 today. That was the number I like to see clear. There's a couple of other newer companies. One's called Telos, and they also are into cybersecurity. The symbol's TLS. And they, if they hold 30, look over 34. That could be actually an emerging company in the cybersecurity space. And one other really would be Leidos. And actually interesting, when I was traveling over the summer, I actually saw an office building with their name on it. I had never seen that before. And that's LDOS, that symbol. And that company looks good over 100. Another one would be Splunk. And also, we need to look at a move, maybe, let's say, over 160. So there's a few opportunities out there. If you want to be patient and just see how these things set up. Obviously, the macro is always a factor, but at this point now, those stocks that we just talked about, those high flyers, are on their own fumes.
All right. Well, Michelle, thanks for pointing out a couple of the names on your radar. I looked at a couple of those names as you were mentioning them. And it looks like, they've come down, some of them off of their peaks. So it's not like they're at their all-time highs and are continuing higher. Some of them actually have come down and recalibrated just a little bit. So maybe worth a look for potential longer-term investors. Michelle, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Thanks again for kind of bringing us up to speed on what's happening within the cyber sector and the White House, and of course, why it's garnering so much attention, and a couple of names that you have on your watch list. All right, thanks again. That was Michelle Snyder, Director, Trader, Education and Research at MarketGauge.com.